As wind swells from the southwest, whistling over an endless field of crown grass and sprangletop reaching high from flooded shallows, a marsh hawk glides with effortless speed. He carries a slender perch in his talons. Indifferent to the struggling fish, the marsh hawk keeps his sights on the tree stand to the east. The skies are clear, though the scent of a recent storm hangs in the air, and mist swirls through the channels below. He orients himself with a few strokes of spotted wings, and continues to close the distance. Beneath him, a mixed herd of water buffalo and hippopotamus lounge in the shallow channels saturated with floating hyacinth. A much larger bird takes off from the marsh a ways off, but our marsh hawk knows he's faster, even with his scaly burden. The forest he approaches is dominated by cypress trees. Giant mahogany, genip, ingas, enormous acai palms, trumpet trees, and ndar combine to fill out the floral cast. With his perch held fast, the marsh hawk catches a shift in the breeze to gain altitude. As he glides back down, his target is in sight. A great sphere of twigs and branches, woven into the crown, 2 branches, and the great trunk of an enormous mahogany tree. His mate, a slightly larger bird with muted spots and a pale head contrasting his dark brow, steps out onto the main entrance and onto one of the branches. He makes land beside her, setting down the perch. They share a ritual dip of their heads before tucking in. Down below, while they are still channels and hyacinth mats, numerous patches of sediment have built up as land. This is the beginning of the dry season, so the waters are low, and this patch is dry and secure. At the roots of their tree is the incubation structure of another creature, a great mound nest. Its foundation is freshly constructed, and the eggs inside have not yet been covered. The eggs are not uniform in size. One is quite large, ivory with mottled patches of brown. The next isn't much smaller. However, the remaining 3 are all a fraction of the size and uniform in a pale hue. Something approaches from the grassy marsh. Something massive. A tall figure takes form through the morning fog. Like the marsh hawk above, this feathered beast carries a fish in her claws. However, hers is a squamantarx, an armored freshwater coelacanth. At 300 kilos and 3 meters in length, this fish is less than half the length this species can achieve. She was interrupted in her efforts to contribute to the next generation. Most fish in this habitat already laid their eggs many months ago at the beginning of the wet season. Her kind give live birth, though much of the 2-year pregnancy has the young remain within their eggs inside the mother. These will hatch in a few months, then be born with the first rains. Being born live means that they will be large and capable enough to hunt the fry of most other fish when they hatch and start to grow. However, as now she is impaled on 6 long claws, her young, still within their eggs, will never get that chance. Her misfortune will better the chances of offspring not her own. Her killer is also a mother. Having just laid eggs of her own, this will be a perfect meal to begin regaining her strength. The swamp monster now stepping out onto land is, at 12 meters in length, large for her kind. Muscular arms hold the coelacanth to her chest, further restraining it with enormous gaffing hooks on each hand. With each twitch of the fish, her claws only dig deeper. Robust scales along the mother's arms protect her from the sliding scales of the fish. The coelacanth tries to bite at the neck of her attacker, but these retaliations are futile as her throat is not only comprised of thick, flexible hide, it also has a dense mane of feathers that afford both camouflage and protection from just these sorts of attacks. Though her torso is narrow from the front, a short sail along her back anchors massive neck muscles that enable her to grab and draw prey like this from the marsh channels. Her head is similarly compressed, yet strong in the downward strike. The long, muscular tail is also quite flat along much of its length, a boon in swimming when the need arises. For all her might, this dragon's steps are strained. A slight limp impairs each stride. Arthritis has set in, and both right ankle and multiple joints throughout her left leg rub bone against bone. She's fine in the water, but at around 4.5 tons, walking on land comes with a dull, recurring ache. Hollow bones and a lot of air sacs through her body give this creature a light frame, but her footfalls are still heavy, especially with her current burden. This is all coupled with dozens of injuries throughout her body. All of her fingers are lumped or misshapen in some way. Bare patches along the feathers of her white throats expose a grisly scar. A long pair of old wounds culminate in punctures between her leg and ribs, and a kink in her lower jaw are all testaments to a life hard-lived. This old dragon is Yodemi. At 47 years old, she is venerable for her kind. She is a bakar, a species of megaraptoran theropod. There are many types of theropod dinosaur found throughout Chimeir. Of these, megaraptorans are the largest, claiming the title of top predator from the tyrannosaurs following a massive extinction event 15 million years ago. One lineage, the Epeiroctoventorids, or robust monarchs, often occupy the role of top predator. Yodemi belongs to the second main lineage, the basal or gracile megaraptorans, called styraconychids by naturalists of the assembly. As we will learn, they are quite derived in their own ways, but are not as extreme in size and power as their robust cousins. Styraconychids are not all fish specialists like the bakar or heron king, but these are certainly the most diverse and abundant of the lineage. Her kind, the bakar, are found only in this region of southeastern Nikar, the Seridic wetlands, a habitat in the northern continent on the distant planet of Kaimere. Related animals are quite common throughout the known world, but these alar species are around 2 tons or smaller. The great size of Yodemi's species is a direct consequence of the tremendous abundance of large fish in this habitat. She limps up to the base of her nest. She releases her fish. With a grunt, she plants a foot down on its gills to stop it from twitching and begins to peck down. After her front teeth tear out most hard scales along its side, she then pulls off the skin and snaps it down. With a few more twists and prying bites, she exposes the roe. Eggs, which are her favorite part of any fish and an ideal nutrient supplement. Most coelacanth have fewer larger eggs that hatch within the mother, but squamantarchs instead have far more and proportionally smaller young. A mother of this size, fairly modest for her kind, have 2 sacs that each contain between 30 and 50 golf ball-sized eggs. Larger females have far more sacs of eggs. Most squamantarchs slow growth at around 30 years of age, but some will continue growing throughout their lives, with the largest producing as many as 1,000 eggs. The theropod takes one sac in an entirety and swallows it whole. The second bursts as she bites into it, spilling half of its eggs onto the ground, but she pecks and scarfs it down all the same. Yodemi then begins to feast on the muscular abdominal meat. 5 little creatures assemble around the fringes of her clearing. The first 2 are quite small, a little over a meter long. Though they are, of course, tiny and covered in a dense coat of spotted feathers, their silhouette from the side is quite similar to the 4.5-ton monster now ripping into the coelacanth's side. These are her young from last year's clutch, now 7 months old. 3 other little ones assemble from further in the swamp. These are much larger, just under 3 meters each. They are the survivors of the clutch the year prior. Though they seem wary, the old mother does not see them off. This is her first proper meal in weeks of being gravid, and she won't eat often now that she's laid, so she's not really interested in sharing. Once she's had her fill, the old mother inspects her eggs. 5 in total. A small clutch at her size and age. Yodemi's previous 2 clutches have had 12 and 9 respectively. Hens in their prime typically have between 15 and 20 eggs. She doesn't know it, but the 3 much smaller eggs are yolkless, or fairy eggs. These are not uncommon in young theropods, especially in their growth spurt years as they mature but are not skeletal adults, but quite rare for a fully mature animal. It's possible a consequence of any number of her many injuries, or perhaps a sign of age and the challenges of building up sufficient nutrients to lay. Yodemi has had many good years. There are over 100 of her adult children in the vast swamps and marshlands far beyond this territory, and over 200 yet more young scattered about. Considering there are an estimated range of between 10 and 25,000 mature bakar in the Seridic wetlands, and another few thousand in wetlands beyond, this means that her children might comprise as much as 1% of the adult population, at least in the basin proper. A tremendous mark of success by any metric. That said, the past few years have been hard. Fewer eggs and fewer survivors in each clutch. In her prime, she could chase and snatch even the small martens, foxes, and noasaurs that threatened her little young, and of course easily dispatching the larger predators as well. But now, the chase, much less the catch, is increasingly difficult. She only had 2 survivors make it this long from her clutch that hatched 7 months ago, and 3 from the year prior. An unfortunate showing, considering her long track record of success in years past. Even so, she doesn't give up. With plodding steps, she gathers up mouthfuls of nearby fallen twigs, fronds, and leaves to pile atop the nest. It takes a while, and she's full and tired, but eventually her eggs are covered. It isn't a dense covering, and she needs access to rotate them now and then, but this will protect them from the weather and help stabilize the egg's temperature. Once she is satisfied, Yodemi eases down to sit behind the nest. Her tail arcs around her fish. Her young from the previous years wait a moment longer, but they trail off one by one when it becomes clear she isn't going to share. Not while there's still a good meal or 2 for her to enjoy from the squamantarchs. The last of her young to remain is the smallest of the 3 elder chicks. The elder 3 are all better groomed than their little siblings, but she is especially put together. She tilts her head side to side. Though she can look forward over her snout with a crossed field of vision, it's easier to look from the side. A few steps brings her closer. She hasn't given up on the hope of an easy breakfast. This little theropod is Fai Zhemi, the hero of our story. Her mother's feast wasn't a terribly clean affair. There are little bits of flesh, skin, and bones scattered about. Not enough to merit Yodemi's attention, but a few bites would make a fine meal. Fai Zhemi still seems cautious. Her mother has never hurt her, but has hissed many times when the young theropod gets too close now that the clutch is laid, and Fai Zhemi seems to get the impression that her mother is in no mood to have her around, much less let her steal a snack. Fai Zhemi is not desperate. She already caught a modest leatherfish and a peacock bass this morning. However, the appetite of a young bakar is insatiable. A few scraps are worth being a little nervous. Sitting back on her heels to step low, Fai Zhemi continues her cautious advance. Her mother still hasn't noticed. Finally, she reaches a spattered array of flesh and scales. With her long, slender jaws outstretched, Fai Zhemi pecks at and gobbles down whatever bits of fish meat she can find. This is all well and good, but her head tilts when she spots something far more tempting. Roe. Her mother's hungry and frantic consumption of the great coelacanth's second egg sac was a messy affair, and some of them were scattered. Fai Zhemi keeps low and steps toward these nutrient-dense morsels. This does bring her close to the nest, but the bright pink eggs and their alluring fresh scent is worth it. The first few eggs are pecked at and swallowed without incident, but a deep rumbling makes the young theropod freeze. The massive, flat tail that was affording Fai Zhemi cover a moment ago slides to her right as her mother strains and turns about. She doesn't put in the effort to stand, but with a hiss that builds up to a loud snap of her jaws, Fai Zhemi grabs one last egg and sprints off as fast as her spindly legs can carry her. High above them, the marsh hawk takes to the sky once more. A few beats of spotted wings carries him out to a vast perspective of the wetlands on all corners of the horizon. This is the Seridic wetlands, one of the most productive ecosystems in Chimeir, a distant planet which takes life from Earth and sets them free to evolve independently in this new context. Chimeir has been taking life from Earth for several 100 million years. This is reflected in most habitats in Chimeir with a blend of modern, recent, and ancient flora and fauna. Most habitats are an eclectic mix without close analog on Earth. The Seridic wetlands, this blend of lakes, marshes, woody swamps, and dense jungles, bears a much more striking resemblance to a region on Earth, the Amazon and Pantanal of South America. While there are certainly other plants and animals, such as our protagonist species being a dinosaur descended from ancestors taken during the Cretaceous, and a great many animals that trace their origin to Asia 1.5 million years ago, a notable percentage of plants and a majority of fish and small animals are descended from ancestors harvested from South America during the Miocene 6 million years ago. The reason for this appears to be tied to the catalyst of the harvest itself, a localized extinction event that triggered the harvest. Sediment studies, among other sources of inquiry, suggest a major change in the climate paired with the entire wetlands being choked out by a vast bloom of algae and magic native to the planet. Most native fish and other aquatic fauna went extinct as the waterways turned to sludge. The source appears to have been a nutrient runoff from the Telmead Mountains, though it may have been amplified by their factors, such as broader climate change. After all, the harvest heavily contributed animals to both continents and was a prelude to a very stable period without harvest. It wasn't just the blooms that caused the extinctions, though it was very impactful in this particular region. Only the fish and other aquatic animals really suffered an ecological clean slate, and their numbers were most heavily impacted by the blooms. Plants, birds, insects, and mammals all have their bias towards South American origin in this area, but it is fish that show the strongest connection to a single place on Earth. Only Kajar has a flora and fauna so heavily sourced from one time and place, and that's thought to be largely a consequence of recency and barriers to land travel. Native plants and animals did return to the area from other regions after the harvest, and subsequent harvests added to the biodiversity of the Seridic wetlands, but it is still a significant contribution from the wetlands of Miocene South America as a consequence of such a drastic ecological impact as prelude to this harvest. Today, the Seridic wetlands are a slow-flowing system of rivers pooling in abundant lakes and basins. 3 great rivers, Shi, Jinye, and So, numerous smaller rivers, and all their tributaries all flow out to the same salt marsh and mangrove swamp that itself connects to the Doret Sea. The Seridic wetlands is a region defined by water. Not only by the flow from springs up in the mountains lazily passing through rivers, lakes, and floodplains down to the Gulf, but by the water carried by its seasons. Though the wet season and dry season tend to break the year in half, or perhaps more fair to say 7 months of wet season and 5 months of dry, the slow flow of water means that it's really only the final 2 or 3 months of the dry season that really earns this title. Even in the driest months, there are still plenty of flooded plains and flowing channels. It is a wetland year-round. Most of the region is marshland. Channels of water cut through stands of reeds and grasses. Hundreds of deeper basin lakes are scattered throughout these marshes. Many of the channels and lakes are packed with hyacinth on their surface. Thousands of distinct species of fish, many of them endemic or only found in these wetlands, reside in the waterways. Salt marshes and mangroves are common near and toward the Gulf. Though there are tree stands and proper swamps throughout, this habitat is certainly more common upriver toward the highland sources of many of the rivers and basins. It is here, in the cypress and mahogany swamps at the feet of the Telmead Mountains, at the southern range of the Seridic wetlands, that our story begins. A few days pass, and the venerable Bakar barely moves. She's able to pick at her coelacanth for a few more meals without even getting up. The same will not be said of her young. Fai Zhemi and her 4 siblings are almost always on the move. They tend to remain within a panicked sprint of their mother, but especially Fai Zhemi and her fellow 2 3/4 of a meter younglings, that still affords them a wide range to explore. They avoid the more open marshes, but there's still lots to see in the swamp and woodland. Fai Zhemi has just caught, swallowed, then regurgitated a red-backed spur frog. The toxins in this frog's skin isn't lethal to a predator as large as Fai Zhemi, but it is irritating to her throat. She then pecks at it twice. As the frog tries to flee, leaping away, the instinct to grab overrides the caution she felt because of its poison, and she catches it by the leg. Again, she tosses it back, and again, an irritant forces her to regurgitate. Fai Zhemi has eaten plenty of frogs, with the common glass frog being a personal favorite, but this sort of experimentation and exploration will be incredibly important for her down the road. For now, though, very much annoyed, she picks it up in her jaws once more, but this time rather than try to swallow it, she snaps her head to the side and flings it a few paces away. Commotion to the north captures Fai Zhemi's attention, and the vexing creature leaves her thoughts. Unharmed through the whole ordeal, the frog hops twice to clear the distance to the nearest stretch of pond, then disappears below the surface. Meanwhile, Fai Zhemi hears the excited chirps of her siblings and rushes toward the sound. They have caught a monitor lizard, specifically a piebald water monitor. Tegus are more common in the Seridic wetlands, but monitor lizards have still established themselves here. These predators can exceed 2 meters as adults, but this subadult is only 1.5 meters long. Longer than Fai Zhemi's younger siblings, and certainly a threat to them, but it would more easily feast on the eggs in their mother's nest if it could reach them. However, Fai Zhemi and her siblings have put a stop to that. Zhao is the largest of Fai Zhemi's year. He's also their boldest member. He doesn't want to get bitten by the lizard, but is delivering the most strikes to it. So far he hasn't committed to a bite or attacking with his hand claws, but kicks are a convenient way to deliver damage at a distance. The third sibling of their clutch, Yodemi, works in concert with Zhao, nipping at the lizard when it goes for her brother. She is the most cautious and observant of the trio, but it seems she's still willing to get into the brawl. They've taken on these monitor lizards before, and familiarity inspires confidence, even to the most reserved. The two younger sisters, Ichi and Mimi, hold back. Mimi occasionally rushes and hisses at the lizard, but Ichi doesn't even make that effort. The older two have the lizard on edge, harassing from either side. Even so, they haven't gone for the kill. This changes as Fai Zhemi jogs up. Perhaps aware that intimidation is no longer an option, the monitor lizard sprints for the nearest tree. That is when all 5 siblings strike. It is a merciless assault. Between the 3 older siblings, it is dismembered and slain. Then the fighting begins as they seek to portion out organs and other choice parts. These young killers may not know it, but in this way, they provide an invaluable service for their mother and her next clutch of eggs. She protects these 5 youngsters by killing bigger predators that might hunt them, and they take out small predators that might threaten the nest. This organized crime family structure is thought to be key to how megaraptorans have successfully taken command of so many dominant niches in the face of many potential nest raiders, especially in the known world with its constant harvest of clever, stealthy, and relentless mammal predators. Though not nearly as sophisticated as the crime families of the robust monarchs, especially the Uktan, Bakar mothers and their young keep the region around the nest quite secure, even in such a competitive region as the Seridic wetlands. This isn't an ironclad defense, however, especially as their mother has become quite undisciplined in her territory markings in old age. In their feast, the siblings have let their guard down. They don't hear danger closing in. A great form lunges down, its jaws clamping shut on Mimi's tail. The little theropod screams, and her siblings scatter. Zhao lets out an alarm call as he rushes to the thicket. A shrill roar echoes from the nest. Rather than go her usual path, Yodemi crashes through the thicket, leaving a stand of saplings crushed in her rush to reach her young. The monstrosity before her might be mistaken for the same kind of creature at first glance. Both have long, flat tails, tall necks, and muscular arms ending in hooked claws, but it's wrong in all the details. Her scaled snout is filled with teeth. His is a sharp, bladed beak with only molar-like cusps toward the back. Her body is lithe and compressed. He may have the same profile, but the front of his torso is a wide barrel, and he is much more dense in his form compared to the lighter steps afforded by her hollow bones. A full gut suggests a plant-based diet. However, Golden eyes are set apart and face forward, and it is with no herbivorous intent that he bites hard onto the struggling Mimi, her ribcage crushing under the power of his bite. Now limp in death, the little theropod shifts when he turns to face the enraged mother. This ogre may be larger both in length, and his mass of 7 tons is far greater than her own 4.5, but the old Bakar rushes him all the same. She stops a few paces away and hisses in low stance. Her arms flex wide and her jaws bow out as they open to their fullest extent. This is an adaptation to swallow large fish whole, but it makes for a very intimidating threat display, especially when paired with her bright-colored tongue. When he doesn't back down, instead taking a step toward her, Yodemi wastes no time in engagement. After her first bite, retraction, and then another toward his left eye, the intruder quickly reassesses his position. He rears tall, spreading his arms, and shakes the thick mane of black feathers on his neck as he takes a step back and drops the offspring's body. His palms are a bright red, a warning hue of her blood that he threatens to cover them with. He might try to backtrack to resume display over engagement, but Yodemi has no interest in this change of tone. She's old, tired, every step aches, and he had his chance at a peaceful resolution. She snaps at the base of his neck, tearing at the height of his throat. His neck skin is thick and loose, much like hers, but she still draws first blood. The intruder now lunges forward, but she steps back. A hollow frame makes her far more nimble despite arthritis in half her joints. Her narrow jaws snap forward again toward his eye. She misses, instead stabbing at the base of his cheekbone, but he balks even further. He swings a clawed hand, but Yodemi has already stepped out of range. He's larger and a lot stronger. If he commits to a brawl, he would surely win, but it seems increasingly evident he isn't dedicated enough to throw his weight into the fray. He takes several steps in retreat, though doesn't turn away. Yodemi presses the attack. Though he continues to back off, she no longer takes pause between strikes. Finally, she lets him take 2 full strides. Again, she opens wide her jaws and arms, letting out a slow, deep hiss. The intruder's mane relaxes, and he resumes a horizontal posture. With a few more steps back, he turns. In his retreat, she seems inspired to chase. She only pursues a few paces, but it seems enough to inspire him to a full jog, plodding along the last stretch of soil before plunging into the water of the marsh and continuing on down one of its many endless, winding channels. The ogre was a Jugashen. Despite his similar outward appearance, he belongs to a mostly herbivorous clade of dinosaurs on the other side of the family tree. Most of their meals are vegetation, with a particular fondness for hyacinth, but Jugashen needs some meat in their diet. Fish is the usual target, but crocs and small game on land are also taken now and then. Unfortunately, a young Bakar counts as small game, and would have been a perfect supplement. Yodemi inspects the corpse of her daughter. It was a quick death, kinder than most animals at their conclusion get in these violent wetlands. Though Yodemi is not one to waste food, she does not feed on Mimi's body. Instead, she returns to her nest, strides labored as ever. She now has an exaggerated limp compared to earlier. In her rush through the thicket, she struck her ankle, and a fresh wound along her side begins to bleed as she crashed through the branch that broke such that it scraped along her ribs. Neither wound is incapacitating on their own, but they add to a culmination of punishment that she can't shrug off like she used to. The 4 surviving youngsters gather round and sniff their sister's body. Like their mother, they don't feed on her, just take in her scent to confirm and understand her death. After each is finished, they disperse. Not long after, the youngsters all crash from the excitement and trauma. Little Ichi, now the last survivor of her clutch, curls up beside Fai Zhemi. Bakar can and often do sleep standing, but now and then they get a proper slumber like this. Fai Zhemi grooms her little sister. Even for her young age, Ichi is especially unkempt. Her feathers have licks and bends that no amount of wetting and preening seems to take care of. It's not that she doesn't groom. Her feathers and skin beneath are cared for and in good health. She doesn't have any mites or anything, she just always seems to look a little messy. She stands out a bit next to all her siblings, but especially beside the obsessively preened Fai Zhemi. Even as Fai Zhemi picks and nips over Ichi's feathers, adding some of the oils from the base of her tail to the mix, the little Bakar remains as unkempt as when she sat down, though does seem to enjoy the tactile attention. Eventually, even the obsessive Fai Zhemi gives up, and the sisters pass into slumber. Later that evening, Fai Zhemi has made her way back to the pond where she earlier caught the frog. She stands in the shallows with the sun setting on the opposite bank. Unlike her mother, who has a white mane and chest, Fai Zhemi is instead a pale brown. This is not only afford better camouflage in the forest floor, fish looking up from the water lose her amidst the trees at her back. When she matures and hunts out in the open, her mother's coloration will make more sense as a camouflage adaptation, but here, blending into the trees is far more advantageous. A pair of leatherfish come into view. Leatherfish are a very common group of catfish, with over 100 species found in the Seridic wetlands, and many are found here and nowhere else in Kaimere. This pair, each around half a meter long, are still too far, so she waits, motionless. Fai Zhemi may be a bit brazen and rambunctious on land, but when fishing, patience defines her. She needs at least 10% and ideally 20% of her 50-kilogram body weight every day, and fish are how she comes by most of these caloric demands. Her eyes do not afford particularly strong binocular vision directly ahead. Her wide-set eyes instead benefit her as a small prey animal with a wide field of vision to see predators coming from many sides. However, an advantage of her very slender snout is that she's able to look over it and have a surprisingly wide cross in her field of vision down in the water where she hopes to strike. Her patience pays off. Finally, one of the leatherfish comes into range, and Fai Zhemi's jaws snap forward. She catches the catfish, promptly tossing it into the air, lunges up, and gulps it down. She might chase frogs and lizards now and then, but this, catching and feasting on fish, this is what our little swamp monster was born to do. Fish may be her bread and butter, but Fai Zhemi is a curious predator and ever interested in new prey. That evening, she encounters a bizarre creature on its way from one pool to the next. She knows by scent that it's a turtle. The hard spiked shell reminds her of a snapping turtle, making her wary. Snappers are quite abundant in Yodemi's territory and have on numerous occasions attacked Fai Zhemi and her peers as they fish. So far, she has evaded them by now knowing the scent they leave in the water and is ever wary upon its detection, as she witnessed a now-dead sibling get his leg broken when they were only a few months old by a snapper. It has made her cautious around all turtles. However, this sluggish creature is curious enough that Fai Zhemi is overcoming this. She remains at its back, avoiding the risk of a lashing head, but she's increasingly bold as it hasn't yet tried to strike her. The wide head, amplified by a crescent flange on either side, all featuring bright yellow flecks, mark this as a banana turtle, a cousin of the mata-mata of Earth. A lot of other soft flanges along its neck wriggle as it moves, further enticing Fai Zhemi's attention. She pecks a few times at the soft neck. When it finally snaps at her but fails to make contact, it only inspires further inspection. Soon, the turtle makes a run for the water. Fai Zhemi, of course, easily keeps pace, biting at the tail and feet of her new favorite toy. It's too large to easily lift and toss around, but plenty of fun to bother and peck at. Once the turtle reaches water, it is able to accelerate. However, the waters here are shallow, and Fai Zhemi is able to easily keep pace. A large, mossy island obstructs the turtle's path, and it veers to the left. Fai Zhemi comes to a halt when the mossy island moves. A pair of tall, curling horns flank the long neck that snakes around to look at Fai Zhemi. She staggers back as it gives a lunge. With a skip in her step, Fai Zhemi dashes back to the brush before circling around for a better look at a safe vantage. This is Epomediceratus, a buffalo turtle, though the discovery of a very similar stupendemes of Miocene South America that was almost certainly its ancestor has made some in the assembly instead refer this animal to the new genus. It is, like its proposed ancestor, a flat-back, side-necked turtle. Stupendemes is long extinct, and this lineage of side-necked turtles are quite rare on Earth today, but in the known world, they comprise a majority of freshwater species. Both the buffalo and banana turtle are side-necked turtles very common in these wetlands. However, buffalo turtles are not usually found this deep in the swamps this far south, instead preferring the warmer, open lakes to the north. This male has come further inland to mate. After mating, the females will lay concealed nests in swamp thickets. Nesting in a month or so will have their eggs hatching with the rains, a popular strategy for fauna here in the Seridic wetlands. This male, with a shell just over 2 meters long and a mass of 900 kilos, is of a respectable size, though he's not likely to be the biggest contender visiting the females. His horns on either side of his neck are, however, particularly large and curled. The horns will help him flip over rivals, preventing them from mating. Something he has performed well at in the past few years, despite being of only average size. These duels will happen a bit further into the swamps, so the male has only stopped here to wallow and feed before continuing his journey. His kind are not particularly picky eaters. Crustaceans, mollusks, fish, fruit, and nuts are all happily taken. A young theropod of 50 kilos like Fai Zhemi is bigger than he usually is interested in, but not so large that his lunge was in jest. Fai Zhemi watches him for a time before eventually getting bored by his still laziness and meandering on to another pond to try her luck there. The next morning, as she is out fishing, Fai Zhemi hears the familiar footfalls of her mother. The old Bakar is finally on patrol. Though most of her time will be spent watching the nest, both to defend it and to conserve energy as she slips periodically into near torpor for much of the harshest months, she does still rally to mark her territory every now and then. Angler birds like herons and storks can employ flight to scout out potential fishing locations by sight if familiar stock gets depleted. Bakar do not have this luxury. Instead, they have an exceptionally keen sense of smell that guides them to feeding grounds. Once they reach adulthood, they will be able to identify hundreds of different fish species, along with discerning a limited understanding of information like age, health, population, and even size of large specimens by the scent that lingers on the surface where they reside. Curiosity and experimentation when young is critical to building up this catalog of what they seek out and what to avoid. This heavy reliance on smell has also impacted how Bakar mark their territories. All megaraptorans have similar scent glands on their jaws and wrists, but these are amplified and highly productive in steraconichids, especially in these fish specialists like the Bakar and Alar. Scent marking is not a common behavior in dinosaurs, with it being far more common in mammals, but Bakar especially have bucked this convention. At her age, she isn't as diligent about territory marking and patrolling as she used to be, but it seems this morning she has decided to rally once more. Fai Zhemi initially ignores her mother, nothing interesting to her at this age about a patrol, but commotion in a pond draws her focus. Fai Zhemi sees her mother dragging what looks like a massive frog out of the shallows. At around 120 kilos, this could easily kill Fai Zhemi. It kicks frantically, though Yodemi's jaws on its leg afford minimal opportunity for escape. She sets it on the ground, then plants a webbed foot on the creature's belly. Once it is restrained, she bites repeatedly into it, tearing off limbs and opening its throat. Rather than feed, as she's just had a full breakfast as coelacanth back at the nest, Yodemi simply leaves the ruined carcass and continues on toward the western edge of her territory. Fai Zhemi skips up to the body and looks it over. This is a Zishun. Though their body plan resembles a frog, they instead belong to a much more ancient lineage of Chimeirian amphibious animals, the Carbosuchians. She saw a little brother killed by one of these giant toady monsters. Yodemi kills those she finds in her territory. Normally they avoid Bakar territory for this reason, but for this young female, hunger and misidentified opportunity drew her in. The pools here are perfect habitat for her to lurk as an ambush predator, and more dominant females of her kind have claimed many of the nearby pools that weren't in Bakar territory. The open waters are drying up, and this seemed a safe bet. This miscalculation, that she could make this place do despite the resident Bakar not marking it with much regularity, has cost this Zishun her life. Fai Zhemi bites and kicks at the body, reinforcing her fear and disdain for these creatures, before wandering off in search of her next fishing opportunity. Fai Zhemi doesn't know it, but these southern reaches of the Seridic wetlands are special for a number of reasons. Perhaps chief among them is that this habitat is, in part, manufactured. There's a creature here that doesn't tolerate the greater heat of the northern wetlands particularly well. Indeed, for the most part, they prefer to reside further south in the highland lakes. However, here at the lakes near the foothills of the eastern Telmead Mountains, the waters can be surprisingly cold, due in large part to their sources being mountain cap runoff, much more to their liking. The Bakar, and other subtropical and warm temperate wetland creatures that can tolerate a lower water temperature, enjoy the benefits of these diligent engineers. Beavers. This lineage of rodents has been in Chimeir, in some form or another, for 30 million years, though this genus and their striking impact on the known world has only been present for the past 1.5 million years. The dams they create do a lot to stabilize the wetlands. Flooding is less devastating, and there's a lot more fresh water retained during the dry season. Indeed, Yodemi's territory might not exist were it not for their efforts, as waters that might otherwise flow down toward the lowlands and basins during the dry months are instead retained in terraced pools. This species of beaver does not frequent the lowlands, and those that do just live in lodges and don't waste the monumental effort of trying to control the vast, slow-flowing floodplains and basins. The dams they make in these faster-flowing rivers up in these foothills also reduces the impact of lowland flooding, at least from storms arriving from the open oceans to the east. It also means that there's plenty of scattered beaver lakes for Fai Zhemi and her siblings to fish in. It also means that there's plenty of scattered beaver lakes for Fai Zhemi and her siblings to fish in. Shallow lakes that are generally quite safe because their highland-fed waters are a bit colder than most crocodilians prefer. This also reduces nest site competition for the adults, as lowland megaraptoran mothers have to fiercely compete with a tremendous abundance of crocodilian species, 4 of which are quite large, that nest in the same context. In all, because of the beavers, this is quite an optimal territory for bakar to raise their young. It is much safer than it would be in their absence. Small lakes are perfect sanctuaries for little bakar to learn the lesson they will need to survive, and the dams keeping out a majority of crocodilians both make it safer for the young and less competitive for mothers, so there can be a surprising number of bakar in a given region. Without the beavers, it is unlikely that this species would have the success and abundance that they currently enjoy. Though Fai Zhemi remains within the borders of her mother's territory, often using her scent and claw markers as parameters, she explores the full range with increasing boldness. One of these ventures takes her to the interior edge of her mother's territory, deep within the mosaic of beaver lakes. She catches a few young peacock bass in one of the clear pools branching off from the beaver lake. The silt here is gray and water's especially clear, making it easy to spot and catch her prey. There's a lot of runoff and murky waters in other parts of the Seridic wetlands, especially those basins fed by the northernmost of the 3 great rivers, but thanks in no small part to the beavers and the filtration effects of their dams, the waters here are especially clear. Fai Zhemi ventures further on, skirting the western edge of her mother's territory. While exploring here, she comes to a pool with numerous mossy rocks along its shore. Amongst this moss, her eyes are drawn to the enticing purple orbs scattered along the moss, along the wetter base of the stone. They are secured to the rock by a foot like an anemone or snail. Most are around the size of a golf ball, though they range from marbles to billiards. She jogs up to these, abandoning the shallows to peck at one of these in an effort to dislodge. Unfortunately, the orb instead bursts into a gelatinous fluid. It's salty and a bit acidic, leaving Fai Zhemi to sputter, twice plunging her snout into the water to clean it out. Her next attempt on a smaller orb is more gentle, though she fails to dislodge its suction cup. Finally, her third attempt on a slightly larger one is successful, and she twists it free without breaking the outer wall. Next, Fai Zhemi drops it into the water. The foot of the orb, which held it to the rocks, wriggles about. It opens at the base, getting large and filling with water before expelling, shooting the little orb away. It still floats, gliding in a zigzag across the surface a couple meters away like a pinball. Fai Zhemi chases it, dashing back and forth and picking it up as she catches it. It doesn't have much range, so isn't able to get far. Once she catches it, Fai Zhemi brings the orb back to shallower water, where she again drops it and lets the orb fill up once more before shooting off across the surface. This is a jiju, or purple jelly, a common species of wild magic here in the Seridic wetlands. It is the largest form of native life to the planet found in this habitat. Like all magic, it is a single-celled organism. That said, this single cell is highly complex, with a wide range of organelles that serve different purposes. Most magic is microscopic, with larger magics losing ground as plants and fungi took over, but some lineages, like these suction jellies, have held on. They are photosynthetic, but do get some minerals from stone and nutrients from the moss it was munching on when Fai Zhemi so rudely interrupted it. A very unpleasant taste and smell is usually a sufficient deterrent against predators. Also, having a few key biochemical differences between native Chimeran life and life from Earth makes for poor compatibility. Terran animals must have specialized symbiotic native enzymes in their gut flora in order to metabolize a satisfying meal. Enzymes Fai Zhemi does not possess. However, none of that protects this jelly from a bored little theropod who finds their dramatic escape along the surface of the lake to be a delightful form of entertainment. Her Her play is interrupted by the defensive grumblings of a nearby mother emerging from the other side of the mossy rocks. This is a Seridic river sloth. Most of their kind throughout the known world live near rivers but forage on land. This is one of the few true wetland species. They will eat some land plants, being quite fond of grass and reeds, but have a preference for reeds and algae that grow underwater. They are a small species and don't like being far from their burrows. At night, when they're most active, they wander further, especially since Bakar are daytime hunters, so are asleep and not a threat, but their territories still deter nocturnal predators like red panther and renjuyo. But here, during the day, they rarely even exit their burrows. Like many species, they thrive here in the mosaic of shallow lakes made by the beavers. 3 other sloths crawl out of their dens near this beaver lake and join the first in a mooing call. It may not sound particularly intimidating, but each is substantially bigger than Fai Zhemi, and they are armed with powerful claws that could rip open a theropod just as easily as the soil in which they dig. The reason for their defensiveness? A cohort of juveniles fill in the crowd, calling down to Fai Zhemi as she's wading in the shallows of the pool. The first mother has a pair of twin sons, each around 4 years old, and 1 little cub. Fai Zhemi may not be a threat to the adults, but she could certainly snatch up one of the younger cubs. It's frustrating to be driven from a place she's had such success hunting in throughout today, not to mention her delight at the jellies, but Fai Zhemi doesn't want to know how much damage their claws could deliver. There are other places to explore. Though she wants to keep playing, the jelly pulses back to shore near the sloths, where Fai Zhemi is now wary to follow. Defeated, the now bored little theropod turns and shuffles off, obsessively preening to soothe herself. Sloths are not the only animals drawn to this habitat by the impact of the beavers. Fai Zhemi's wanderings take her beyond the southern edge of her mother's territory. Curiosity inspires her to pass the long claw markings that signify the edge of her mother's domain. She wanders the edge of the long lake leading up to the dam. In a stream that flows down into the larger beaver lake below, she catches a young marble ray. She's eaten these before and knows to remove its stinger. Then, she's free to tear off its wing for a satisfying meal. However, before she's able to remove the other wing and continue her feast, she hears strange noises on the other side of the stream. 5 or 6 meters away, 3 creatures step into the light from the thicket on the opposite bank. In every way, they are off-putting. Their scent and chittering noises remind Fai Zhemi of monkeys that live in the lower trees of the thicket, yet there is still a striking scent about them that puts her on edge. They are draped in strange patterns as if entangled by foliage. They each carry a weird object, a long stick with a wide hooked prong at the end. At a little under 1.75 meters tall and ever standing in a full threat pose, they are frightening to take in, especially in conjunction with the fact that everything about them seems so uncanny. Fai Zhemi gives them a rising hiss that ends in a chittering. Her claws fan out to complement the threat. All 3 pause. Each exceeds her mass of 50 kilos, and they are quite a bit taller, but they still seem wary of her. These are Chimeirans, the first humans Fai Zhemi has ever encountered. These are Sishewa, one of the many ethnic groups of the Seridic Telmid. Some Sishewa live on their own, and most in settlements year-round, farming during the dry season and fishing when the rains come all close to home. However, many choose to live like these 3, dispersing when the dry months allow for easy foot travel, and returning home when the rains come and make it very hard to get around without a boat. They know the signs of theropod landmarkers and avoid Bakar territory. With their harpoons, they could reliably kill Fai Zhemi, but they are not equipped to fight a multi-ton adult. They know a Bakar Fai Zhemi's age still enjoys her mother's protection. One of the men raises his harpoon. If he's able to kill her in a single strike, the mother may not come. However, the other man, an older fellow with a full beard, makes a strange noise, holding out his hand. The younger man lowers his weapon. If they hurt Fai Zhemi but fail to kill her in that single blow, her cries could bring death to them all. That said, the older man doesn't want her to learn to be comfortable or confident around humans. At his unsettling bark, all three humans raise their hands high. The older man passes off his harpoon to the woman on his left, takes up a handful of mud and rocks from the bank, and throws them at Fai Zhemi. They don't hit her, but spattering and clacking along the water and shores by her side makes her quite nervous. Next, the older man runs at her, arms high, tongue out, and eyes wide as he splashes through the stream. Though she stands her ground for a moment, once he's halfway across, she loses her resolve and turns in flight. Fai Zhemi stops and looks back, only to get a mud ball to the face. This time she flees, and doesn't look back. Three days later, the sun rises to another intruder. This one also has the ponderous gait of the Jugashen as she steps out onto the patch of mud between two distant cypress trees. Like both Fai Zhemi's mother and the Jugashen, she has long arms ending in hooked claws, a long feathery neck, and a great flat tail. Her torso is wide and frame is heavy. She stands on all four toes, spread wide to support her bulk of 5.5 tons. Unlike the Jugashen and Yodemi, this creature has very short legs. To compensate, she has to rear up on high when standing. A pair of flat sails protrudes from her back. After turning her snout up and sniffing the air, drawing in through the end of her woody scaled snout and filling with many chambers of her lungs, the plodding behemoth tenderly shuffles back down into the water. As she eases into the channel, the clumsy brute seems to melt into a lithe, sinuous animal. Yodemi slumbers by her nest. Not far off, her 4 surviving offspring sleep well. They, however, are quick to awaken as the stranger glides through the water toward them. Yodemi, Fai Zhemi's larger sister, is ever more alert. She lets out a few warning chirps, and Zhao sounds the alarm. The little ones retreat to nearby thickets of brush and shrub, falling silent as they fade from view. This alarm, thankfully, alerted their mother. Yodemi groans as she shifts, adjusting her position. Using her snout to push back, Yodemi rises to her feet. Her arms spread, a crackling series of pops as she stretches life into her battered digits. She inhales when she turns to face the approaching creature. The scent glands on her throat and wrists flare out, releasing signals of her health and strength into the air. The stranger is not deterred by this fragrance. Her lumbering gait on land is gone in the water. Here, as the stranger walks along the bottom of the channel leading up to Yodemi's nest, her heavy frame keeps her on the substrate. She moves with lithe grace at a surprising pace. Though she closes the distance, Yodemi does not meet her. She stands tall. She knows why this stranger is here, and positions herself accordingly. This is another species of megaraptoran theropod, a kurojaku. She belongs to a distant clade, the Eperovenators, or robust monarchs. Both lineages took to the water independently from terrestrial ancestors, and as a consequence have very different suites of adaptations to this bountiful niche. Yodemi's ancestors, the Styraconichids, came to the continent of Nikar around 10 million years ago. They are narrow-bodied, lightly built, and stand tall to look into the water to grab fish from above. The monarchs are relative newcomers to this continent, and the ancestors of this particular species are even more recent arrivals, coming to the Seridic wetlands as recently as 1.5 million years ago. Their tactic is to walk along the bottom of waterways and tackle fish in their element. Indeed, males are so large and dense that once they reach skeletal maturity, they are entirely aquatic, incapable of moving about on land beyond a clumsy belly slide now and even then, being ashore for too long can lead to suffocation. Females must lay their eggs on dry ground, so are capped at a much smaller size, as they must still be capable on land. Capable, but not proficient. She is quite clumsy on land, though being so dense encourages tremendous musculature that she needs to bring down the enormous fish, crocodiles, dinosaurs, and aquatic mammals that make up her specialized diet. As she closes in, the stranger takes her first steps on shore. Yodemi has her nest 12 meters inland, so she's not immediately upon the kurojaku, but she does take a step closer. She reaches her arms to full span and opens her jaws to their greatest extent. Her long, narrow jaws are lined with over 100 teeth. After taking another pair of steps to fully rise to shore, the stranger defecates, using her wide, flat feet to scrape it back, kicking the scent into the air. Kurojaku also rely on a keen sense of smell to find prey and mark territories, though her sense of smell is not as keen as a bakar's, and her scent glands are more for spreading fragrance and hydrophobic oils into her feathers than for territory marking. Her kind have much more sensitive hearing, and vocalization is a more important method of asserting their claim. She then opens muscular arms and jaws as well. Compared to Yodemi, she has far fewer teeth, but they are larger, especially a large pair of long fangs toward the end of her snout, each the length of a human hand. Her snout is around twice as wide, though with the back of her head flaring out to afford binocular vision directly ahead, and jaw muscles broader still, she has a much different head shape from the front. Far more powerful jaws, built to tackle bigger prey. For a moment, they stand in assessment. Yodemi was quick to bring the fight to the Jugashen. She had fought their kind before. She knew it was looking for an easy meal. A direct assault was the best approach, to show that there was no easy meal to be had. This is a different situation, demanding a different approach. This stranger does not want her young. She wants this territory. Theropods may adjust their bodies to extreme degrees to make life in the water increasingly profitable, but the one adaptation they seem incapable of making is a transition to live birth. No matter how sleek their hide, fluked their tails, or changed their limb proportions, females must still find a dry patch of soil to nest. Their eggs will drown in the water, and with an incubation lasting between 4 and 6 months, depending on the species, that means these megaraptorans must have a patch of soil that they can be confident will remain dry that whole time. There's more than sufficient fish, crocodiles, and aquatic mammals and dinosaurs to feed the vast populations of both kurojaku, bakar, and the smaller alar in this habitat. It's nest space that is the limiting factor and the primary source of their competition. Yodemi has held this territory for over 2 decades. This is a perfect territory for a bakar. An elevated patch for a nest, with a forest on one side to feed and cover her young, and a fish-dense marsh as far as the eye can see on the other. A large female for her kind, she has reliably driven off many hopeful intruders like this. She has many scars, proving success in its defense. However, the years are catching up to her. She doesn't move as fast or as deftly as she used to. There was a time she would have already seen this stranger off. Kurojaku can get larger. A big female might weigh as much as 12 tons to Yodemi's 4.5. However, on land, the Bakar has every advantage, and nests have to be on land where the Kurojaku is lumbering, at their weakest. Their greater strength and power means nothing if they cannot land a blow against their more nimble opponent. In years past, Yodemi has bested Kurojaku cows twice her size by keeping out of range and lunging with precise strikes until they amble off. With her ailments, however, this may no longer be an option. However, she will not betray this weakness to her foe. Ignoring the pain, Yodemi stretches wide. She lifts her weight onto one leg, then the other. Her body sways on one foot, leading with open jaws and demonstrating the serpentine motion and flexibility of her neck. These are many of the same steps as in the mating dance, but as she is wont to do in an effort to impress a potential mate with her physical health, so now she wants to prove to her opponent that she is ready to defend her claim. For all this show, she does not initiate a confrontation. Her ribs and ankle are still freshly hurt from her charge at the Jugashen, and a dozen aches besides, but she seems to hope a deception will serve her better than an attack. Unfortunately for her, it appears this stranger is willing to call her bluff. This is Maju. She is young, but at 5.5 tons, large for a Kurojaku of her age. She is in an excellent position to fight. She is already mated and will soon be ready to lay the eggs with which she is now gravid. She's late to laying, especially considering her species needs an extra month or two of incubation compared to a Bakar, but desperation has forced her to be flexible. She might not even know the value of this territory or the luck she has come across in her timing, but luck is a crucial ingredient in any successful venture. With a deep growl, Maju charges. Yodemi lunges forward. She bites the Kurojaku's snout, twisting and turning the charge so Maju stumbles to the side. Her inexperience shows as Yodemi releases the bite, then promptly chomps down on the back of the Kurojaku's neck. As she pulls up, long arms snap forward. Unlike most other theropods, megaraptorans are able to pronate their hands, an ability which Yodemi now uses at her opponent's neck, both at the back and toward the throat. However, restraining a heavier and much stronger opponent is easier said than done, even with greater experience. Maju is not pinned. She flexes her extraordinarily muscular body hard to the left, away from her opponent. Her sail pushes the taller megaraptoran's arm off of her neck, and then pulls her throat aside before Yodemi can break the skin with her claws. She then snaps right, and her tail strikes Yodemi's ankle where it had been injured a few days prior. The force of this blow makes Yodemi stumble and release her bite, and that is when Maju strikes. She turns up and bites Yodemi's lower jaw. Her bite isn't strong enough to fully break her opponent's mandible, but she feels the onset of a fracture as her jaws clench shut. Yodemi slashes her hands along Maju's neck. These are not precise killing blows she tried to establish earlier. They are desperate swipes meant to deliver more pain than lethality. Her slashes draw blood, but not enough to force a release. The neck of a Kurojaku has thick hide, almost 3 inches in one the size of Maju, under a dense, feathery mane. Yodemi's claws, though formidable, barely deliver surface damage. For a moment, both fall still. Maju has her foe restrained, but she's not in a good position to shift and employ her own claws. For her part, Yodemi cannot get her claws in a particularly useful place either, and if she jostles, she may inadvertently put herself in a place where her opponent might be able to bite hard enough to break or reposition for the throat. This pause continues. Both breathe hard. The stalemate is broken by a charge from the thicket. Zhao, Yodemi's largest offspring, runs at his mother's attacker. The screaming approach causes both adults to disengage. Rage and panic set in as Yodemi lashes down. Maju first tries to bite at the little bakar now snapping at her arm, but as Yodemi again bites the back of her neck, she simply shoves her full weight against Yodemi's chest. As that fails and she continues on, owing to her much shorter legs, she instead collides with the bakar's long legs. The force of her stumbling impact takes the balance out from under the old mother, and Yodemi falls to the ground. Before Maju can press the attack, Zhao bites her arm, his needle teeth drawing blood. Now, Maju rounds on him. As she lands a bite to his hip when he turns to flee, she meets far less resistance than Yodemi's jaw. Both of her long fangs penetrate his torso. She shakes hard to the left. The might of a bakar is in the downstroke. Their tremendous back and neck musculature allows them to lift and sustain immense weight, such as the violent convulsions of a half-ton fish. The strength of a Kurajaku is in all directions, a consequence of maneuvering their great bulk through the water, and that means they have just as much power in the lateral plane. Maju demonstrates this distinction between their body plans with a hard left turn, thrashing and sundering Zhao's little body. Just as Maju tries to finish off her assailant, Yodemi kicks her hard in the side. Maju releases the juvenile and lunges to bite the neck of the adult bakar as she tries to stand. She gives a hard turn to the side and again forces Yodemi to ground. Rather than press the attack, Maju releases her opponent and steps back. She inhales, her already broad torso filling out and flexing as her arms curl to either side. Her wide jaws open, now dripping with saliva and blood, and she looms over her elder. Yodemi pushes herself to standing, but keeps low. She steps back. With a ginger shift, she keeps her weight off of her left foot. Red stains her pale throat, dripping from a deep open wound to the back of her neck. Again she retreats, taking several limping paces back. Maju does not press the attack. She has also taken her share of blows, but more importantly, she has made her point. The territory now belongs to her. Any further combat only risks more injury. She is used to brawling with other Kurajaku, face-biting and wrestling in the water. This is new, and as long as she's won, it seems she doesn't have any interest in further beatings. For her part, Yodemi is injured and exhausted. After a few steps away, it seems clear Maju will not press the matter. Yodemi limps off, making her way in the opposite direction of the nest before turning out to open marshland. Maju relaxes after her opponent is clearly in retreat. Her neck is bright crimson, though thankfully, neither bite nor claw was able to leave deep wounds. Her injuries are all superficial. Kurajaku have tremendously thick skin to help them sink, so while she bleeds, it's much better than it looks. Her efforts and attention turn to the reason she's here. Yodemi's nest. She ambles over, stepping over the lifeless body of Zhao in her approach. With a few nudges and bites, she clears the foliage covering Yodemi's eggs. Yes, this will do perfectly. Maju takes each egg and swallows it whole. The nutrients will help replenish her own in her effort to produce her own clutch. She mated and laid eggs the year prior, but none survived due to her lacking a territory that she could successfully defend for long. Indeed, she had a territory when she mated a few weeks ago, but was just driven from it before she could even lay by a larger female kudojaku. This is a typical story for a young female megaraptoran. They mature long before they reach full size, but it's quite rare for their eggs to even survive to hatching if they aren't big enough to defend a reliable territory. This year is Maju's first good chance as a mother. She then digs into the nest, scattering it about a bit before kicking some of the refuse into a pile better suited for her own much shorter stature. Once this is complete, she begins to lay her own clutch in this new nest. 5 in total. Just like Yodemi's, one of these is a fairy egg, small and without a yolk. In her case, this is not unexpected. She's quite young, a mature adult, but still has a lot of growing to do. She could easily double her mass before her body stops growing in another decade or so. She's laying quite late in the season, so the chances of an older and larger kudojaku claiming this territory is now slim. If she feeds well, she could be large enough to properly defend her new claim next season. This was a very lucky break indeed. Not so lucky for Yodemi and her family, however. Fai Zhemi is likely alright. Bakar tend to leave their mother's territory when they're around 2 and sometimes 3 years old, so she's only a little bit early. Little Ichi, her younger sister, is in a much more precarious situation. The 3 siblings, Fai Zhemi, Little Ichi, and their diligent sister Yodemi, look on as their entire lives have been upended in an instant. Their nests stolen and defiled, their brother's body left to rot, and their broken mother disappearing into the marshes. They're on their own now. No protection, no safe hunting grounds, and no idea what comes next.
cha.